I think this series is blown open by this game. I don't see it as a negative for either team.
So the second test match has reached its conclusion. India have thumped England. This is the place to be following the action every day of the series. Alongside myself, former England spinner Gareth Batty, who got it badly wrong yesterday. I can't wait to mention that. You can get involved though. Use the comment section below the screen and also like and subscribe.
Kuldeep in for the 18th ball of Moeen's innings. He's come down the pitch, he's missed it, he's stumped. It's game over. Moeen Ali shakes hands with Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli and Ajinkya Rahane, and the game is done.
So no surprises really. England folded shortly after lunch on day 4 at Chennai. And Gareth Batty alongside me yesterday, you confidently predicted it was going to be Rohit Sharma to take the Player of the Match awards. Hey, it wasn't. It was Ravichandran Ashwin.
Yeah, I mean, look, he had a brilliant game, but so did Sharma. I still stand by the first innings runs that Sharma got, allowed and set up this game for India. Take nothing away from Ashwin. He was quite brilliant with the ball, standalone really in the first 2 matches of the series. World-class spinner, world-class performer. Adding the 100 to his performance in this test match probably makes him the perfect player for these sorts of conditions in India.
Look, England have just been humbled in the second test match, polar opposite to the first test. But if you were to ask Virat Kohli and Joe Root at the start of this series, would you take 1-1 going into the third test match, a pink ball test match? Joe Root would have said yes. I don't think Virat Kohli would.
Kohli definitely not. He would be wanting 1-0 or 2-0. I think he'd be incredibly happy with this performance. But I think it just shows that in these conditions, you get on the front foot and you put in good performances as a unit, which India did this test match, England did in the first test match. It's very difficult to come back into it. So the team that can react and come back from a difficult position is going to be the team, I think, that has the best chance of winning this series.
Well, don't go anywhere because very shortly you will hear from the Indian skipper, Virat Kohli.
When the fans are behind you, obviously, you push more as a team, and this game was an example of that grit and determination that we have shown as a side, and we continue to do that, and the fans' support, as you rightly mentioned, is a big part of that.
So, captain of India, Virat Kohli, a relieved man, a proud man, because India were strong in this second test match, but you know, got a couple of little digs in there as well, didn't he? Talking about the application shown by India. He was very quick to remind everyone that whilst England batted like this as a minefield, India went past 300 in first innings, nearly reached 300 in second innings, and also he learnt by his mistakes as well. The great man, he wasn't going to be out driving twice in the same match.
No, it's very much part of the whole psyche to Virat Kohli. It's mind games on the opposition. He's trying to make a bit of a cauldron when you play in India. And you could see when he was out on the field, he's celebrating with the crowd. He's trying to get them up. The crowd made a difference. Like it or not, the crowd made a difference in this test match. I'm not saying it was the difference in England winning and losing, but the atmosphere, the pressure around the bat, the way that marries up with India's performances, both with bat and ball, is certainly like having a 12th man. And Virat Kohli is very aware of that. He's very precise with his words. He's very careful how he uses them. Joe Root, the absolute opposite. So it's an interesting tussle between the two captains.
Oh, absolutely. Look, Joe Root went 1-0 up, starred with the bat. Perfect game for England in the first test match. And Virat Kohli, you know, after getting out for a duck in first innings on day 1, coming straight back into it. Tell you what, though, I want to talk to you about mind games, because I think that there were some mind games at play on day 2. Can you remember just before the lunch break, and Ravichandran Ashwin, he's done it a couple of times. You think he's about to mancad the non-striker. But he pulled out of his delivery halfway through. Final ball of the session. Dan Lawrence, playing in just his 4th test match, was at the crease, and he just made the batsman wait a fraction longer. Bowled a delivery. Lawrence possibly a little bit mind-frazzled, popped one up to Shubman Gill. Now, Dan Lawrence actually batted pretty well late on day 3. And Ravi Ashwin was asked about the England batsman. Have a listen to what he had to say.
Dan Lawrence is someone who likes using his feet a lot. We saw how he batted in Sri Lanka. He steps out a lot, he uses his feet, goes deep back in his crease and uses the offside holes. That's one thing that the English batsmen did really well in Sri Lanka. So from our side, we wanted to make sure that we got our plans right when the batsman walked in first, and so that we're not giving away too many runs and all that, bottling them up. But like I said, in the past, I might have been a little shy of using angles. But using angles from different points of release, and especially the wickets got a little bit in it for you, I think those angles seem a little more larger than what they eventually are. So bowled closer to the stumps, over the stumps, tried and bowled a couple of straighter ones to him, didn't spin it back. Then I bowled a little wider of the crease and over the stumps, then went round the stumps, middle of the box, and finally I think Rishabh wanted me to bowl over the stumps for the last ball before lunch. But I felt the angle was good, and even Jinx agreed with keeping round the stumps, so I went a little wider and sort of, bowled at a different angle. The arm also went at a wider angle.
So there we go. Now, what many viewers may not have seen was that there was actually some words between Ashwin and Lawrence as they walked from the field of play late on day 3 as well. So there's something going on there. But do you think that the canny old operator has said something in a press conference, knowing that the young batsman would hear it, full of pride? Oh yeah, I used my feet well to Ashwin. First ball comes down the track, bang, gets him.
There could be something in it. The one thing we know about Lawrence is he's quite combative. He likes the scrap and he'll get stuck in, and he's played very, very well. He also learnt from the first innings. He faced 50 balls for the 9 runs and got an absolute beautiful ball from Ashwin. There's not a lot you can do with that. But the second innings, he was a bit busier. He was prepared to use his feet. He was prepared also to go back. Is there any gamesmanship? Do you know what? There could be. And actually, it marries up with the ball that Ashwin actually delivered to take the wicket. It very much was pushed down the leg side and a long way down. It was pitching a long way outside leg stump and nutmegging Lawrence. So is there something in it? I don't know. I think Lawrence will look back on it and think, well, all I've got to do is keep my legs together, get my pads in the way, and I can't be out. But sometimes a psyche for a bowler is quite nice to think that you've outthought somebody. It actually enhances your position at the crease. It enhances how you bowl because you feel like you've got one over on them and you've got a bit of magic dust that you can sprinkle on everybody. So I'm not sure if it's bang on and the real reason why Lawrence got out, but do you know what? Keep going on with it because it's fascinating to listen to.
I tell you what, that's a really polite way of saying, no, John, you're talking absolute rubbish. But, it reminded me, I tell you what, the dismissal as well, it reminded me a bit of that famous Shane Warne, Mark Ramprakash moment from the 90s when Ramps was approaching 100 and Warne tempted him out to try and smack him over his head to get to the 100. And of course, well, same thing happened basically. I tell you what, we've been blessed with this test match. There's been some amazing performances from Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, as well as Ashwin. But my moment of the day doesn't involve any of those.
And he goes to sweep and they appeal and he's given him out. Axar Patel has another wicket, his 5th. A 5-wicket haul on debut for India.
Well, a star has been born, I think, in the second test match at Chennai. Axar Patel should have actually played in the first test match. Whether he would have made a difference or not, I think he possibly could have made a difference. The point you were making in the last couple of Outside Edge shows was that Axar Patel afforded Ravichandran Ashwin the protection at the other end that maybe the 2 spin bowlers that played in that first test match didn't. When you also factor in the fact that the guy can bat, we didn't really see that in this test match. India have got another extraordinary talent, and they've still got Ravindra Jadeja to welcome back as well. So all these guys can bowl, all these guys can bat. I mean, that's India sewing up cricket for 20 years, isn't it?
Yeah, look, a star is born, yes. But IPL viewers and IPL listeners would know that he was already a superstar. Wonderful performer. Could he marry it up in the test arena? Could he ever? Perfect surface for him. Absolutely suits his skill sets. He's tall, he's direct, he gets enough on the ball. I didn't understand actually how good he was at using the seam. So he undercut some balls to skid it into the pads and then kept some at sort of halfway with the seam and spun on the outside edge. A little bit more subtle skill than I thought he had, but he showed that in the test arena, which is the nuance of test cricket compared to, say, T20 cricket. But I said at the start of the game, he is the difference in the 2 teams. He can hold the game and attack in the same breath. He did it beautifully for Ashwin. So Ashwin becomes your strike bowler, not just the guy that bowls 40, 50 overs on the bounce and gets driven into the ground. He's allowed to come in and out of the attack to take the wickets at crucial periods because this fella can do some of the donkey work as well as the really brilliant work that he's done. 5 for 60 on debut. take a bow, sir.
Well, look, there was another spinner as well, Kuldeep Yadav, who on another day would have taken 4 or 5 himself. There was a moment of the day, it could have been laugh out loud moment of the day, when Mohammad Siraj put down Joe Root, of all people, at backward point. That was a bad drop. But look, he will get his day. But I thought Axar Patel was phenomenal in this test match. Certainly one that I'm going to enjoy watching after we get past this series. Well, look, let's hear from the England captain to hear a little bit about how he dealt with that crushing defeat in Chennai.
I'd say it was a challenging wicket. And I do think that the toss was an important one to win, but it wouldn't have guaranteed us to win the game either. The fact is that India have showed that you can score runs on it and found a way of managing a very tricky service. So for us, I think we've got to learn from that. We've got to take bits from it, add it to our own games, and come back better for it as well. They're very different to what a lot of our guys will have experienced before. But as long as we learn from it, then we'll be a better side in the future. It might not be that when we come to bat on day 2 of a game that it spins as much as it did this time round, or performs how it did this time round, but it might be days 3, 4, 5 where it becomes a little bit more challenging. And now we've got that in the bank. Hopefully guys will be able to take that forward and be better for it.
Joe Root, the England captain, speaking. Look, on occasion, and I'm not suggesting that this is one of those occasions, I go to press conferences and essentially the team coach or whoever comes out and after a defeat they say essentially the batsmen have got to score more runs and the bowlers have got to take more wickets. Now, it's one thing to say we've got to learn from these conditions very quickly. It's another thing to do it, isn't it? Because it's not just about you. You're not batting to a bowling machine. The task awaiting Joe Root side is big, but how thankful do you think they'll be that the 3rd test match is a day-nighter and it's one where seam and possibly swing is going to come to the equation more than spin?
Yeah, I think we've got to pick up on something that Kohli said. He made the mistake in the first innings and he was quite prepared to put that shot away, which was a drive, and he backed his defence and he was able to back himself for at least 4 sessions. He thought his defence could get him through. England have to find a way of trusting defence. It's all well and good having all the shots. And today, I'm not judging it on today. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't today. We saw guys looking to bat time and got out caught around the bat defending. We got guys playing shots. You've got to find a way of your defence seeing you through. That can be the thing that you go to. Actually, moving forward, it could work in England's favour. The pink ball next. Traditionally, it's more of a seaming, swinging type of a game around the world. Is it going to be the same in India? Fascinating. Jimmy Anderson being rested, he's good to go. Hopefully Archer's fit. England have some serious firepower. If it's not totally reliant on spin bowling, where do India turn? What happens with their selection? I suppose Bumrah comes back in with the Sharma. So it's Sharma, Bumrah against Anderson, Archer, Broad. It's a different dynamic, a skill set that the England batsmen are a little bit more familiar with and will trust their defence. So potentially they have a better chance of scoring more runs, which then allows you to win the test match.
Come on then, Mackie, you're the wicket keeper. What about that stumping? We have seen some works of art in this match. I would happily have photos of those on my wall at home if my wife would let me. It's just beautiful. If your wife would let you. Oh, mate, I'd never get away with that. I'd never get away with it. We'll have to take the photos of the kids down, and there's no way that's happening.
A little window into Andrew McKenna as well. I mean, we love our cricket, but we don't love it that much. This win for Virat Kohli means that he is just one away from becoming the most successful Indian skipper in the history of Indian cricket, or any cricket, because there can only be one Indian team. So 21 test victories at home, and you'd have to say with 2 to come, it would be a brave man to bet against one of those matches going the way of India.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible record. He wants to go past MS Dhoni. I think the win ratio is something like 75%. I mean, that's phenomenal. You know, anybody that likes their stats, I can't imagine there's anybody in the world with a win rate like that, comparable. So it just shows how dominant, one, Virat Kohli's teams are, but 2, India are in their own country. They're so adept at playing those conditions. As I say, the next match, I don't think Virat Kohli wants that one next. He wants the real turners, the guaranteed turners. Pink ball, is that going to throw a spanner in the works? I think this series is blown open by this game. I don't see it as a negative for either team. I think it's wide open, and England will be slightly more looking forward to this next game, with it being the pink ball, as they would do the fourth. It's mouth-watering.
Okay, well, before we leave, let's just look ahead to that test match. England made 4 changes for this one of them enforced. India made 3 changes to this test match. How do you see it going for the third test match? In terms of the bowling lineups for both teams, you'd imagine Jasprit Bumrah comes back, Jimmy Anderson comes back, Jofra Archer, if fit, does he come back?
You're saying pink ball, the traditional, then yes, but you're going to have to look at what's in front of you. You're going to have to look at the surface. India will select on the surface and surface alone as to whether it's 2 big lads and your 3 spinners again. England will be a little bit more, well, can we make this pink ball talk a little bit more in night conditions? Can they get more movement through the air, which might affect them sticking with the 2 spinners and the 3 seamers, potentially affecting the batting? Is Moeen Ali going home? We don't know. By being rested and looked after, does that mean you automatically come back in the team for Johnny Bairstow? Does he come in for Lawrence? I think England have far more idiosyncrasies going on behind in the changing room of how it's all happening, as opposed to India, but it could all work in their favour if it all marries up at the right time.
Brilliant stuff. Well, look, Gareth Batty will not be back for the third test match, but will be for the fourth. Throughout the third test match, it'll be this man, Mr. Harmison, who will be back in the big seat next to myself. But thanks for joining us on the show. Remember, following every day's play of England's tour of India throughout February and March, this is the place to be. Thanks for viewing.